Hey guys, it's Meg. I'm doing my 5 and 35 from the hospital. I believe it's day 104. I I've been at the hospital for 48 hours now, and they're making me stay one more extra night, and then I get to go home, hopefully by 1 o'clock tomorrow. I'm so excited. So it'll be Tuesday, and I got admitted on Saturday. Um, Hopefully you guys don't mind a long video. Figured we'd talk about what just happened. um, so I gave birth to this beautiful little man. His name is Oliver Maxwell. He was born on October 17th, like I was saying, on Saturday. I know I'd been posting pregnancy videos for quite a while since I hit 35 this year. What do you say? Oh, hello. um, the pregnancy was so easy that I think I made the assumption that how could labor be difficult, which is a really stupid thing to think, I guess. Um, Labor sucked. But so the plan, let's rewind to what I thought was going to happen. The plan was that when I went into labor, I would give birth at the Puget Sound Midwife Birth Center. My OB, who was also my fertility doctor, she really wanted me to stay with her for the birth. And, you do all your research, you read all the literature, and you make the decision that you think is best for you. And I wasn't high risk, like other than my age being 35, there was no reason that I needed to give birth in a hospital. And I knew that I wanted to do it more natural because there were benefits to delayed cord clamping. And, this is going to sound maybe dumb of me, but I was afraid if I went to a hospital that they would cut me, whether it was an episiotomy or cesarean, or they would put me on drugs to, speed up, the process. I didn't want all those interventions if they weren't necessary. And I was not opposed to them if they were necessary. But it was just one of those things where I had the feeling that it would be the doctor's schedule, not mine. And I didn't want to do it that way. So yeah, I transferred my care to the birth center, and my doctor kept saying like, "Well, why don't we have this first baby at the hospital with me, and then if it goes well, you can do it natural the second time." And I'm like, "But that's the thing, we're only doing this once." I mean, not to be negative, but it took us 2.5 years to get pregnant, and we had fertility issues. So we don't even know if getting pregnant again is an option. And also, we don't want 2 kids. We just want one. And if, down the road we change our mind and second child is watching this video, I'm sure you're well loved. But at this moment in our marriage and in our life and age, we just wanted one little baby, So that's why I transferred to the birth center. That's why I wanted an all natural delivery. I wanted to give birth in one of the birthing tubs. I loved water the whole pregnancy, and it was soothing, and I just assumed, yeah, if you can let me give birth in that, I can do it. And I mean, I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So anyway, fast forward to rewind, I guess, to Saturday. At 7:30 in the morning, I passed my mucus plug, and so I knew it was starting. I was feeling really crampy. And it's funny because, after not having a period for 10 months, it's almost like, oh man, I forgot how much cramps suck. But yeah, so I was feeling crampy. And then, the contractions started. Well, so yeah, I guess the contractions started, but they were really vague. I didn't know if they were ending, like it just felt like there wasn't a clear start and stop. And, from everything I read, I knew that you knew when it was over. So I, I got in the bath or the shower and was just kind of working through it. And then my water broke. I had been on all fours, kind of like letting the water run over my body. And when I got up to stand, that's when the gush of water came. And so I called the midwives again and I let them know, yeah, my water just broke. But when I told them about how the contractions weren't clear to me, they said, oh, that's just because you're in early labor. You'll know. It'll start getting more clear. And, call us when you start having them closer together and they're 45 seconds to a minute. And the thing was, they were already close together. It felt like they were coming under 5 minutes and then they were just lasting a really long time. So, I labored at home probably until 11:30 noonish. And the funny thing was, Jeremy went to go play disc golf because I was hoping that by sending him away, that would start the labor. It's a silly superstition. But yeah, so I told my mom, like, call Jeremy, tell him to come home. I want to head to the birth center. And, when we called them again and they're like, it doesn't sound like you're far enough along, but come on in, we'll assess you. And that car ride sucked. I was already not handling the pain very well when I got there and they assessed me. I was only dilated 2 centimeters and I'd already been at it, let's say from 7 that morning until 1 o'clock. So, that was a killer to only be at 2 centimeters. And they said, we're not going to send you home. We think you need to be here. We need to monitor the baby. His heart rate's a little high. And, so we were at it doing the laboring until I think it was around 7:30, 8 at night. They'd given me an IV. They were hoping that I was dehydrated, and that's why his heart rate was a little elevated. But, after 4 hours of laboring there, and I think I was like 4.5 centimeters or something, they were just kind of like, we've always been clear with you that if your condition was beyond our scope of care, we would transfer you to the hospital. And at this time, that's what we recommend. And, I was all about like, whatever's best for the baby, let's do that. So we got, it took forever and I was in a lot of pain. So I was like, if I'm not going to give birth here, get me to the hospital so I can get medicated because this is terrible. But, it takes a while. The hospital has to make sure that they have room for you and can accommodate the transfer. That car ride was worse than the first one. And I was like hanging half out of the window, didn't want to sit in the car. Like, oh, it was rough. And then they got me a wheelchair and took me up to the, triage for birth. And, oh my God. So we get there and they couldn't use the IV that the birth center had placed because that's not their policy. But it took the birth center a pretty long time to get my IV in. So I was already dreading like, oh my God, they're going to do it again. And it's going to take forever. And it kind of was a hassle. Thankfully, I'm not bruising too badly in my original IV hand. But, this is the one they're using now. They got the IV in me. They got an IV bag hooked up just because they needed me to have better hydration to give me some painkillers. And that really did feel like it took forever for that step. And the thing that I didn't realize was they drew some blood. Well, maybe I was aware that they drew blood, but I wasn't really sure why. They were checking to see if I had an infection. Like they did my white blood cell count. And things slammed from like me being impatient about light pain management so I could go into labor to holy hell, there's a lot of doctors in my room, like really fast. My white blood cell count was insanely high. I guess I was one step down from sepsis. And So suddenly my transfer for the baby's heart rate being a little high and my pain management needs became much more dire. And the weird thing was nobody told me. I had no idea. And so I thought it was strange that there were so many people in my room working on me, but I was still laboring. I was still having contractions. I was not, I mean, I had pain relief, but it wasn't like the epidural or anything. So I was just laboring. I didn't know it was anything other than normal. And the midwife, Rosie, did stay with us for quite a long time. And she did sit down with Jeremy and explain what was going on better to him. Nobody really explained to me what was going on, which I think was a good thing. Um, but pretty much, so I felt in control the whole time. And I think that's really important for me when I talked with the birth plan. I didn't care if I got transferred to the hospital and had to do pain management. Like, no needless pain. That was never the plan. But I was worried about them giving me drugs without explaining the side effects, or giving me drugs without talking about my choice and taking them. And so I'm at UW Valley Hospital, and they were amazing. Like, they sat with me and talked about C-sections, and I never felt pressured to choose anything. It was more like they were explaining my options, and like, as soon as they were like, "Do you want pain management?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, medicate the fuck out of me. I don't want to be in pain. No needless pain." So they were giving me pain meds, and then they sat down and talked to me about a cesarean, and they didn't say like you're sepsis and you're really in danger. They just said, we want to talk to you about the option of having a cesarean. And I just said, whatever's best for the baby, that's what I want. So again, I didn't realize I was sick. I just was worried about keeping him safe. So it was weird. Like, I signed the document saying that I was okay with cesarean if that's what they thought was the best course of action. And then literally, like, after I signed it, they're like, "You're going right now." And I was like, "Okay." They must really have an opening at the OR right now. And I thought they were just rushing me there because that was not convenient. But, like, I didn't realize it was because, oh, holy hell, you're not in a good place. I never knew that I was sick, which I guess is a blessing. They gave me an epidural in my hospital room, and it wasn't hard to receive the epidural. Like, I mean, I'd watched videos of birth where laboring mothers couldn't bend over in the right way, or they couldn't stay still during the contraction while they were placing it. I had no problems. I could feel the contraction still after the epidural, but it wasn't painful. It was more pressure, I guess. I still had to breathe through it. You know, I did not enjoy labor. Just want to put that out there. And so I was a little bummed with my ability to cope, because I thought that I'd have better pain management. I thought that, I just thought I'd be tougher. And so I was more disappointed in my own coping skills than being at the hospital having a cesarean. The funniest thing was when I was in the operating room, I thought that they cut my vagina. And I know that sounds weird, but an episiotomy was my biggest fear, this whole labor and birth and whatnot. I just didn't want them to cut my vagina. And so I honestly thought that they were cutting it at one point, and later realized that was just them inserting the Foley catheter into me. And I didn't complain, but I mentioned this weird perception to the nurse after I got done with everything. And she was like, "Oh no, I was the one that inserted that." And I'm like, "I'm not mad at you. I was so confused at why I was having a cesarean and they were still giving me an episiotomy." And she was, we just laughed about it. But, yeah, they whisked me into the OR so fast that I didn't know if my husband was going to be present for the procedure. Like, I mean, he had to go put on scrubs and stuff. And so, like I said, it was super fast. It was so weird. I didn't understand why it was so fast because I didn't feel sick. And Jeremy appeared. I think they did start cutting me open before he got in the room, but he, excuse me, he did show up, and he was amazing. Can I just shout out to my husband? Like, he was such a great labor support partner. Like, he talked me through every contraction. He held my hand. He put pressure on my hips. He'd rub my back. Like, oh, I love him so much. And when I think about like the role he played in this whole process, like I get all teary. I was like, I just my mom was a great support partner too. Like, she helped me get through the first 3 hours of labor while he was out of the house, and they tag teamed, and then they both were at the birth center for a while, and I'm just so blessed to have them in my life. But anyway, so he's in the OR now, and I was laughing. I mean, I know I was medicated and I couldn't feel the pain as much. Like every time I thought I felt pain, I'd yell out, I feel pain. I feel a little pain. And the anesthesiologist would give me more of whatever he was giving me. But it it was painful, but it wasn't like I'm dying pain. It was just alarming because I knew they were cutting into me and I knew that they were pushing on me to pull the baby out. And C-sections are weird. What can you say about that? The funny, it's not funny. The thing that happened that I'm going to laugh about now is I knew they'd cut me open. I knew there was a lot of pressure because they're trying to pull the baby out. And all I hear is, oh my God, we can't get his head out. And I'm like, you cut the hole. Like, how big is this baby? Like, why can't you get his head out? And what I didn't realize was when they went to pull him and his head's already in, the birth canal, apparently they started to pull him out and then he did like a squirmy baby pivot and he dove right back into a different part of my uterus, freaked everyone out apparently. And so I feel like I've got a little swimmer because he just dove right back in. He didn't want to come out. But yeah, so it was, the whole experience was not bad. It was quite joyful. I didn't hear him cry as fast as you feel you should, so I wasn't really worried. But I'd watched so many live birth videos at that point that I was like not too worried. But when you finally hear the cry, that was really, really nice. And Jeremy was there, and he he ran over to look at the baby, and I don't know, I had a great time. I was laughing during surgery and asking, I was told very good questions, but I was also told that, I was pretty drugged up, but I felt clear of mind. And to me, that's important. Like, I remember what happened. And so that was good. Yeah. And so they swaddled up the baby. He was so clean, so fast. And Jeremy would put him cheek to cheek with me while they were sewing me up. And it was a good experience. Like, I have a friend, Amanda, who, when I was talking about my birth plan, talking through like wanting to change to the birth center, she said, like, don't be stuck in a mindset of the perfect way you want to do this. And I think she expressed that hers was an emergency, intervention cesarean kind of thing. And it was still a beautiful moment for her. And I feel the exact same way, where it was like, no, this was so far off from my birth plan. Like, I actually, when we were discussing the cesarean while I was signing the, consent form, I told them, well, I wanted to be at the birth center to do it all natural and do delayed cord clamping. And, I'm trying to tell them what I wanted. And they literally kind of snickered and was like, that is not going to be what happens here. And I'm like, no, I know. Your hospital has different rules than a birth center. But I thought that the way this hospital handled everything was beautiful, and everyone here is so amazing. So no complaints, even though this was quite a wild ride. And, being stitched up takes a pretty long time. I think I even told Jeremy that the night before. I was like, if I have a cesarean, like it takes 45 minutes, I think, to stitch up the belly. And, it's easier to pull the baby out than to do the sewing back together part. But yeah, so my mom was allowed to come as my second support person in COVID. And that was another reason why I wanted to go to the birth center. I was just worried that COVID would have all these rules. Like, I did have to labor with a mask on, and that sucked. They wouldn't allow, they would have allowed me to take the mask off once I tested COVID negative, but the results took a couple hours to come back. So, I mean, they weren't even sure if I was COVID negative when I went into the OR, and there were some rules about that. But yeah, having contractions and being in labor with a mask on was not ideal. That's probably my biggest complaint from this whole process. But they allowed my mom as my second support person in the hospital. So when I was in the OR, that's when she arrived, and she got to hang out with us until like 1 a.m. when they transferred me to my recovery hospital room that I've been in since. But yeah, just being allowed 2 people was amazing because, me and Jeremy are so tired at this point. She just kind of hung out near my bed and looked at little Oliver with me, and having both of them there was really nice. And again, I didn't know I was sick. I knew I had a cesarean, but I never felt ill, and that was kind of like something they've had to reinforce for these past couple days while I've been here, where they're like, "Sweetie, you were really sick. Like, this could have been really bad if we didn't catch it when we did." And to me, it's just wild because I'm like, but I feel fine now, and I felt fine in labor, and I don't know. So I think that's the hardest part of me coping with what happened to me, because I don't trust myself to know what being sick feels like, apparently, because if I was really sick, I just didn't know it. But yeah, so that's our story. Oliver is perfect, and I love him. And he has a full head of hair. Remember, I think in the videos I kept talking about how I wanted him to be born with a lot of hair like I was when I was born. But yeah, so that was our birth story. Healing from a cesarean sucks. Not a fan of getting in and out of bed, but you have to. You have to walk around. But yeah, I'm hitting all the landmarks that they want. They just won't let me leave the hospital because I have to do this very extensive antibiotic regime. And so that'll be finished after tonight, and then hopefully I'll be discharged tomorrow. But I don't feel a lot of crazy hormone postpartumness yet. I mean, I know I'm only 48 hours since it happened, and I'm a generally happy person, but the only thing that make me want to cry or feel emotional are, we watched Endgame, and I always want to cry about things that happen in that movie. And then we watched Deadpool, and all of the scenes with his wife where she's stuck in that purgatory and he's trying to get back to her. I was getting emotional about that. And the third thing that got me was the Baby Center app, when I changed the birth date to the 17th and they started giving me like newborn articles to read. That kind of made me feel a little overcome with emotion. Thinking about Jeremy at any moment will make me want to cry too, because I love him and he's so amazing. But yeah, so far no baby blues. As you can see, Oliver is the easiest baby in the whole world. If he cries, I give him boob and he's fine. He's really happy with tummy time and just skin to skin contact. Tonight the goal is to swaddle him and put him in the bassinet right there so that I can get some sleep. But yeah, I mean, I'm not getting a lot of sleep, but I feel pretty good. Walking around, peeing and pooping and doing all the human things. So I'll just try to keep that up, and hopefully I'll go home tomorrow and you'll start seeing videos from me from home. But I love you guys. If you made it through these 25 minutes of me talking about my birth, thanks for listening. I'll keep uploading videos this year, and we'll see how this wild adventure goes. All right, I love you. Bye.